Listen, she likes it when I drive through, listening to Badu. See from DC, said that I was just smooth. I'm feeling her vibe too, yeah, girl, I like you. You should take that ride up 95 and slide through the city that I come from. She said, hold up, see now, she don't mess with dudes who
represent that D-town.
She heard that we were this and that, we all thugged out and flipping crack, and she don't wanna get mixed in that. I said, shorty, what's the sense in that? You watching?
Alright, y'all, what is going on? This is your man L Jamal coming through with another edition of what I like to call Upon Further Review. Of course, this is where I like to make my reviews. Now today I got something special for you guys. This is one of my most favorite shows of all time. I also feel like it's one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Of course, we are talking about The Wire. Now, The Wire is the American crime drama. This was based loosely on the accounts of Ed Burns, a former homicide detective for the city of Baltimore, Maryland, and also it was co-written by author and police reporter from Baltimore as well, David Simon. The show would air from 2002 to 2008, spanning 60 episodes, and the show's backdrop is, of course, Baltimore, and it depicts the relationships between the law enforcement and the citizens, whether they be black, white, other classes, does not matter. Also, the relationship between them, also the media, also the city government, and the education system is analyzed within each season of this show. Now, for example, season 1, it goes over the drug trade and the violence, that being with the Barksdale organization and Stringer, and also season 4, it analyzes Baltimore school system. But let's get right into it, of course, starting off with season 1. Now, season 1 talks about, like I said, just kind of the trap warfare with Barksdale. You also got Omar coming into the mix, and also the police politics. Now, season 1 evolves around like I said, the workings of Avon Barksdale, played by Wood Harris, and Stringer Bell, played by Idris Elba, and their crew on the west side of Baltimore, and their Baltimore Police Department's ongoing investigation into them. Now, when it is found that D'Angelo Barksdale, which is Avon's nephew, is found not guilty of some witness murders, McNulty is actually given basically permission to go ahead and start an investigation revolving around the Barksdale gang, and he gets this recommendation through Judge Phelan, and he forms his own crew consisting of a couple different officers. Well, for one, it is overseen by Lieutenant Cedric Daniels, played by Lance Riddick. He basically leads the detail. Of course, McNulty is a part of this. He helped, spark this all up with his interest. You also had lead detective Kima Greggs, played by Soldier Son. They also get help with their informant, through their informant Bubbles, played by Andre Royal. You also got a couple other officers here. You got Lester Freeman, played by Clark Peters. He conducted the wiretaps. He's the most experienced detective on the detail. He also has helped out on communications with Officer Prez Belusky. Now, Roland Prez Belusky, he breaks down the communications as well. You also got a couple narcotics officers, Officer Hurd and also Officer Carver, and they are overseen by Officers Burrell and Rawls. They don't get along, and they are pretty much going crazy over the shit that some of these officers do at times, and they're also assisted in their investigations at times from homicide detective Bunk Moreland. He gets along with everybody in these details, including more importantly, Jimmy. And also in season 1, you get the introduction of the character Omar Little. Now, you already kind of get his background. He's pretty much the stick-up man of the neighborhood. He robs all the drug dealers. And he comes up in season 1 because, he gets into it with the Barksdale gang, and the Barksdales end up having his lover killed. And this prompts him to go on a rampage, robbing the Barksdales, setting them up, and again, he probably would have left them alone because, again, he doesn't necessarily shoot, he's already a jackboy of the hustlers, so that's what he kind of does. He doesn't need too much provocation, but again, just having his boyfriend get murdered, that's enough for him to go off on the niggas. But as the investigation goes on, they start to make some arrests, that being the detail that McNulty is a part of. Of course, Bubbles is helping out as well. Now, an associate of Avon named Orlando will get arrested by state police, and he will begin to cooperate with them until he is shot, as well as Detective Kima Greggs. She's left in the streets. Eventually, later on, you would have a younger member of the crew, of D'Angelo's crew. Of course, we know about Wallace. He was murdered as well by another one of their soldiers named Bodie, played by J.D. Williams. Now, D'Angelo would eventually go to New York and would find himself, getting arrested. And with all the stress and the years that he's facing, he's also, just find out about Wallace, and he's looking to kind of change a new leaf, and he's maybe even looking to cooperate with McNulty in the case, in the detail. But his mom convinces him otherwise, saving the Barksdale organization for now. But again, D'Angelo does play a prominent role still within the plot, even with him being locked up until the second season. Now, Avon will be popped eventually for a minor offense, and and also Wee-Bey will go down. One of his top hitters will go down as well. We all know about that epic meme. Of course, he finds out about Kima. He shot Kima Greggs. And as far as what goes on with BPD, before we get to that, Wee-Bey does confess to all the different murders, the different the shooting of Kima Greggs, also the shooting of the different witnesses that D'Angelo Barksdale committed. And season 1 ended with Kima Greggs healing up from her injuries. As far as BPD is concerned, Daniels doesn't get his promotion. He's stuck where he's at for now because, again, it's those police politics. And McNulty, because as good as a cop he is, he really means well. He just kind of irks the superiors the wrong way, just with kind of just how he goes about things, and he's a little bit loose. So they put him on an aquatic unit, the boat unit. You'll see him being all into that in terms of season 2, and that's kind of how season 1 ends. And as far as what's going on in terms of West Side Baltimore and the drug game, the Barksdale clique, well, for what it's worth, they're still around. Now, Avon's in jail, but you have your boy Stringer Bell. He's taking over for now. And we go into season 2. Now, season 2 is a little bit different. It takes a step away from the Barksdale organization just for a little bit to add into the city support situation and the stevedores, the longshoremen. Now, the longshoremen are led by this guy named Frank Sabaka, and Frank Sabaka has found himself with one of the majors of the police department, Stan Belchek, and this is a beef based on some Polish people shit. Honestly, they're competing over windows to buy in the church, and just influence in general. So Valchek goes to Burrell, and he urges them because of, again, he plays some political games himself, or he threatens to play some political games himself. He forces Burrell's hand into putting up a detail into investigating what Frank Sabaka is doing at the port. And this all comes in kind of, at a very important moment, or kind of a intriguing moment, because at one point 13 foreign women are found dead on a cargo container. They're dead. They were supposed to be again, this is sexual trafficking. Now, later on, Sabaka's son will get caught up in the mix, selling stolen cars from these cargo ships as well. Of course, eventually we'll find out about Frank Sabaka's deeper connection with the Greeks and how the Greeks are bringing in the drugs here. Now, back to Frank Sabaka's son, Ziggy. He commits murder on one of the Greeks' associates, and he's sent to jail. Now, Frank Sabaka will be arrested as well, but he decides to cooperate until he's murdered. The only one that's left unscathed will be the nephew, Nick, but he's left to watch, the shipyard going ruined. But as far as the Greeks are concerned, the head man in charge, he goes free, and so is the second man in charge as well. So they go free. As far as the superiors are concerned, Burrell and them and Valchek, they're happy with what has happened, the results of everybody going to jail. However, the people working the case are not as happy. But back to the Barksdale situation, the Barksdale gang, they end up being cut off from their New York connection, forcing Stringer to go up to Prop Joe. He will be a fixture in the show as we go on. From East Side Baltimore, Prop Joe is a East Side kingpin. In exchange for territory on Barksdale's side of town, he gets some dope. Avon will get the dope. Now, Avon is not knowing what's going on from the inside. He's hearing about these people on his blocks from the east. So he sends somebody from New York by the name of Brother Mullyman to handle that. And Stringer, he decides to pit him up against Omar and have them go at it until there's some truth revealed. So Stringer starts to play these kind of conniving games on the side. He's not letting really Stringer know what's going on, and that's how season 2 ends. Season 3, it opens up with the Franklin Terraces being demolished, and the Franklin Terraces are one of the main spots the Barksdale gang did they dope. And this is a really interesting scene because it kind of just shows you just the whole process of housing projects, how they come about, all the drama that people say that they cause, and eventually their demise. And it's almost a very interesting scene again because it kind of shows you just the way that it, kind of falls apart, and you see it kind of being dismantled. There's smoke everywhere, just kind of giving the city and the people just one last, memory of, this was who I am. This is where I stood, and they got to, this is just one last reminder, of ironic reminder of what they had to go through. And moving on to season 3, this is where you start to see Bunny Colvin, Major Bunny Colvin, a long-time vet from the Western District, he's a commander of the Western District, trying to salvage something after a long career, and he decides to do something a little bit radical. He decides not necessarily to legalize drugs, but kind of let them kind of put them on the back burner. So he decides to set up an area called Amsterdam. 3 different areas on the west side in which people can just sell drugs, buy drugs. Prostitution is okay. It's, considered to be, it all gets a pass in order to stop the violent crime and in order for the police to put the resources elsewhere. However, there is a murder. There is a murder that occurs, and there's somewhat of a cover-up. But at this point, things do not, of course, they fall apart. Like in reference to a book by one of my favorite authors, Chinua Achebe, things fall apart. And the media begins to follow. The media begins to find out. They begin to report on it, and of course, since Colvin did this without anybody's, jurisdiction or blessing, that being the higher ups, Rawls, Burrell, it's a big issue, and I think that's the biggest issue. Of course, what he did was really bad, but when you add in the fact that he didn't tell anybody, he just kind of went kind of rogue. It's a touchy situation. You're putting narcotics on the streets, so I kind of get where, I do understand where Bunny is coming from. He's an anti-hero in this situation. He really wants to solve this problem, but I think he just went about it, of course, probably not in the right way. Now, Stringer and Avon, of course, on the west side, they will find themselves. Oh, just to kind of clear up what happens with Bunny, he's pretty much, demoted. He's forced to retire, and when he does retire, he's given a lesser promotion. But anyways, back to the West Side drama. Up and coming hustler Marlo Stanfield, played by Jamie Hector, comes up on the scene. He refuses to cooperate, with the Barksdales, leading to a turf war. This is pretty much spearheaded by Avon. At this point, Bell has taken a step back. He's actually, trying to become legit. He's buying up real estate with the help of Clay Davis and some other people involved in politics. He's also taking some classes, and he's trying to find his way up out of this and trying to make this all legit. But again, Avon, he's not having it. Now, Lieutenant Daniels will unleash the major crimes unit to investigate. Of course, Omar is back in the game as well, robbing the Barksdales. One of Barksdale's top hitters, Cuddy, does return. He's not really feeling the game, so Avon kind of says, look, where I get it, I'll let you move on. Let me give you a boxing gym. You can go on about your business. Now, through the investigations, major crime uncovered the buying and developing of real estate, like I said, in order for Stringer Bell to get legit. Now, with these concerns about legitimacy, going up in flames, basically on the street beef, Stringer would make a move that's really cold. He would go to Bunny Colvin and kind of reveal the information. Well, no, he just flat would reveal the information to Avon's stash house, or his weapons stash. But things would catch up with Stringer, and Brother Mullyman and also Omar would track him down in one of his properties, and they would gun him down. thus ending his saga, and thus putting a real hamper on the Barstow organization as well, because again, that is, that's their money man. That was the guy that was going to go legit, but again, he had crossed so many people near the end, so it kind of came back and it bit him, and it was kind of a really, one of those intense scenes, because he tells him, whatever, bring it on, and they fire on him, both of them, Muzone and also Omar, because again, he set them up. He had them, going after each other. I believe Muzone killed one of Omar's partners, but like I said, this all is the end for the Barstow organization, because Avon is arrested and he's sent to jail, as well as many of the other associates as well. So going on to season 4, season 4 focuses on the education system. It follows the story of 4 boys, Naaman, Michael, Randy, and also Duquan, and also the teacher that joins the mix, Roland Presbalewski. He is a minor character up until this point. There was an issue that he was involved in, a shooting incident that he was involved in earlier in the show, I believe the second season, that forced him, convinced him to become a teacher. So we find out about, his struggles into, trying to, work himself in. Of course, we're talking about Baltimore public schools, the difficulties with that, difficulties of understanding the children, trying to, relate to them, understanding that the education that he's trying to instill in them, it might not be relevant to a lot of them. He doesn't necessarily understand this just yet, and he's trying to bond with these kids. He does his best. He definitely does his best to tutor Randy. He tries his best to get to Naaman on a personable level, as well as Michael, and he even helps out Daquan as well, making sure he gets bus passes and her food and her clothes. But one of his biggest issues is trying to understand the curriculum and what to teach these children. Baltimore is in a very serious situation where they're in the midst of the No Child Left Behind stuff, and a lot of their curriculum is based on statewide testing, improving those scores, improving the funding that comes from those elevated scores, and Presbalewski is tasked with trying to teach that, as well as reaching these children. Outside of that, Bunny does return, and he's part of a research group that is attempting to kind of understand what provokes these violent offenders. And he forms a special class, and Naaman is a part of this class, and he gets to understand Naaman. He gets to grow with Naaman. You see these kids going in different situations. Like, he takes these kids out to eat, just to kind of you let them see the real world, trying to get them to, kind of an intervention in a way. And Bunny, as a character, he's played by Robert Wisdom. He's one of my favorite characters in the show because he gives out a lot of knowledge. He's a definite father figure, whether it be to the officers he comes along with. There's a very passionate scene that he has with Carver, but also with the kids in this season as well. He breaks down some knowledge. He asks them pertinent questions, and you actually see that he cares. One thing I do like about this show is that, of course, there's law and order, and there's their police, but they're trying their best to reach into these people, some of them. But also the big factor in season 4 is, of course, the mayoral race between Clarence Royce and also your boy Tommy Carcetti. This was, again, now both of these characters kind of showed up in season 3, and in season 4, of course, this would be when they would go up against each other for the mayoral race. Carcetti's whole thing is pushing the crime situation. He feels that Royce's administration has kind of taken a blind eye to the corruption of Baltimore police, and also kind of not really held them accountable for them not staying up to par. And he uses this to kind of leverage himself, and he actually ends up winning the mayoral race. And things kind of fall apart for Royce. There's some scandals that he is involved in, much like he has a situation that he's caught up in, very similar to that of Bill Clinton. So again, you have all that going on, and you have that political upheaval in the city. Moving back to the streets, Omar, he is talking to Prop Joe. Prop Joe decides to stir the pot again between him and Marlo in order to get Marlo to join the co-op. He's too much of a renegade. That's what this both sides of the city feel, east side and west side. And that's pretty much what the co-op is. It's a collection of the drug kingpins from both sides of Baltimore. But he tries to set something up with them. There's a robbery that Omar takes a part of, gets on Marlo's nerves. Marlo tries to have Omar murdered in jail. That doesn't work. But they eventually start to find these bodies in these buildings, and that's the big thing about season 4. Is Chris and Snoop is a big part of this season. They're knocking on people. They're putting these people in these bodies. Really start intensifying the beef. And at one point, McNulty is able to get Bodie to testify, well, at least agree to testify. And they have a really deep discussion about what's going on in the game and just kind of the pitfalls for the soldier in the game. And Bodie is is really your definition of that right there. But Bodie will get shot down by season's end. And as far as what goes on with how season 4 ends, Michael becomes a soldier for Marlo. They do some work for him. Naaman is taken in by Colvin. He gets the blessing from his father Weebay, who's locked up. As far as what goes on in the streets, of course, there's more bodies to account for. Of course, they're finding out all about these bodies, so BPD has to go into that. And again, the game continues, except this time around, Marlo is on the streets, and we have a new mayor in town. So hopefully, things are taken care of. But we move on to the final season of the show, season 5, and the thing about season 5 is season 5 discusses everything, kind of puts everything all into one, and kind of puts everything into a powder keg, and kind of this is it. And it adds on the addition to the media as well. But season 5 starts off with Baltimore dealing with some serious budget cuts after the Carcetti administration takes over. They're going to have to make some major cuts, and they decide to do that within the police force. And, this forces many of the cases to shut down, and that including the investigation of Marlo Stanfield. This also affects many different parts of the city as well, including the media, with the Baltimore Sun, the city's leading newspaper, having to make some cutbacks as well and shut some things down in terms of major stories. This also, the Baltimore Sun storyline also revolves around Gus Haynes, the leader, the main editor, and also Scott Templeton, who's trying to follow around this homeless man killer that Detective Jimmy McNulty has been kind of fabricating this whole time. With the lack of ends that the city now has, the lack of funds that the police department has, they've been cutting these hours. They haven't been able to pursue these cases, particularly with Marlo Stanfield. So what Jimmy has been doing is he's been fabricating these bodies. He's been making it look like there's a homeless killer that's out on the loose, and in order to create a media storm first, possibly, I guess, but interest from the mayor and the economic side of things to open those things back up for these investigations. Now, back on the street, Marlo, of course, has taken over. He's knocked off Prop Joe in terms of the co-op, so he is now the leader of the co-op, and he's pretty much taken it over. He's pretty much dismantled it at the same time. Like it's a loose organization now. He decides to make it a loose organization with him leading the West Side, and of course Cheese, which will be Prop Joe's nephew, played by Method Man. He'll take over the East Side. Of course, the other fellas in the group, they not really feeling that, but that's where we at right now. He's still, of course, at beef with Omar. He knocks off one of his he knocks off his mentor by the name of Butchie. That is the man who put Omar, I guess, on the scene. And Omar, of course, is drawn out of retirement forced to handle this. He's in some shootouts. You can see at this point in the show he gets banged up. You can see it all kind of taking a toll on him. But he comes back out of hiding. He's robbing he's robbing Marlo. He's taking his stashes. He's knocking off a lot of his hitters, all in an attempt to bring Marlo out into the open, which he, unfortunately for his sake, does not succeed in doing. Now, as much as drama he's able to bring, he's able to knock down some of his hitters. Unfortunately, Omar is brought down himself by none other than a small kid in the community, a little boy in the community by the name of Kennard. You saw him. He showed up a couple times in season 4, hung out with Naaman and them, one of the younger guys, the younger kids, and he just rose up on Omar and he lets him have it. And the most surprising scene I've ever seen, surprising situation I've ever seen. I just didn't expect it. Part of me, when I kind of saw the situation, I kind of built it, I was like, oh wait, he might get shot here, but you just didn't expect it to be Kennard and just this little kid. And out is the biggest player in the game, and that pretty much, for now, saves Marlo. Marlo is the man. Now, McNulty posing as a killer, we're going back to this saga. He gets into contact with Scott Templeton over there at the Sun. He reaches out to Carcetti. The news outlets reach out to Carcetti, prompting him to bring the funding back to the police department. And he uses the homeless killings as a key concern in his governor bid. He wants to be governor now too. He didn't even fix up Baltimore all the way, but now he wants to be governor. Of course, Bunk is not a fan of this, but he goes to Lester Freeman. Lester Freeman just opens up the wiretap with more money. Yeah, he doesn't check McNulty. But anyways, Michael is considered to be a snitch by Marlo and them. Chris has to go down for the killing of his father. That was, what he, pretty much had them do in order for him to agree to be put on the gang. But Chris goes down. They assume Mike has been talking, and they send Snoop to go handle it. But he gets the upper hand on everybody, and he puts some bullets in Snoop. That's just the way it goes. And then, again, one of those scenes that are just like, damn. Now, over the course of the investigation, there is enough evidence that they could gather to pretty much lock up a lot of Marlo's associates. But eventually, everything is found out about what's going on with McNulty and what he's doing. He gets chastised. This is pretty much his last case. He's going to be demoted. He will not be allowed to do any investigative work, prompting him to retire at some point. We'll get to that in just a second. Carcetti is pissed, of course. But the information that comes from this also leads to Senator Davis being acquitted from his corruption crimes. But the information that he does provide forces Maurice Levy, who is pretty much the defense attorney for Marlo, to pretty much lock everybody he can up. Will force him to make a plea deal to lock up, for BPD to lock up whoever they can lock up, Chris, Snoop, etc. Marlo, however, is free to go as long as he retires. It's kind of vague as to if he does or not. He does sell his share of the co-op, but he, there's no guarantee that he walks away. And the show ends pretty much with McNulty kind of contemplating his decisions. Of course, the city begins to cover up of what happened. There's a copycat killer, but he figures that out. He ends all that, and also, like I said, he chooses to retire instead of being stripped of his investigative duties. And editor Gus Haynes over there at the Baltimore Sun, who kept pushing who kept speaking out against what Scott was doing, some of the fabrications he was making. He was eventually demoted as well. So there were some things that changed. As far as Carcetti is concerned, he does become the governor of it all. He ends up appointing Walt Rolfs to the head of the state police. But a lot of things stayed the same. As far as Daniels is concerned, he will become a judge after he didn't want to go along with Carcetti's lies, because Carcetti wanted to lie about the numbers as well. He fired Urban Burrell for doing it, but he turned around and wanted Daniels to do it, and he didn't want it. Daniels didn't feel it at all. But at the end of the day, I feel like with everything, that we've seen, everything kept going on. The drug trade, the violence, the drama within the political spheres, and things remained the same. As much as some things changed in Baltimore, things remained the same throughout the series, and it didn't end that way. It ended, pretty much kind of the same. And I think this is what makes the show good. Recently, I was watching some segment online with Jason Whitlock, and he was talking about why he liked this show. And he went on to say that it shows you, David Simon and Ed Burns kind of tells you what happens when, we turn on each other, when there's violence and there's bodies and all this. But that was only part of it. He only gave you part of it. He doesn't tell you how these investigative units or the police are really doing their job, some of them. And they get to the point where they might make a breakthrough. They could make a breakthrough. But the case is shut down because the city can't afford it. He forgot to mention, a lot of people forget to mention, when they talk about a show like this, when they're critical of the black experience, when they look at a show like this, they forget how the school system kind of, they do leave us behind. Bunny Colvin said it himself, and again, they didn't like what he said, but it's true. They teach these kids specifically for these state tests. They give these kids no real education, nothing that's relevant to them, and they're forced to go back to a community in which these skills aren't needed per se. So that's what The Wire shows you. It shows you the game plan and the machinations within the political scene, whether it be the mayor, whether it be the police fudging the numbers up, fucking them up purposely, making some crime, misreporting the numbers. Those are examples of why a city can go bad, and that's what Baltimore shows you. From season 1 with Barksdale and them, all the way to season 5 with the Baltimore Sun, and of course, everything that happens to Carcetti and Marlowe. All right, y'all. This is another edition of Upon Further Review. I'm signing out for now. As far as this week is concerned, I got some things on tap as far as what I got for the podcast. I got to go over the World Series. We got that coming up. We're going to be going over some NBA news as well as some NFL action. So take a look out for the podcast, Never Out of Bounds. As far as Upon Further Review is concerned, I am working on my Batman Forever review. I'm also working on my sports stories, my 2020 LA Lakers, my antidote, my foray into sports storytelling. So take a look out for that. But as of now, I'm calling a wrap for tonight. Please show your support by giving this a watch, liking this or commenting on it, whatever you want. Share it if you like. I would really appreciate it. All right, y'all. If anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out. One love. And I'll holler at you guys later.